Brian McGunagle has spent over 20 years in senior positions in financial services, retail energy, and real estate, but that's not why he's here. He's the founder, the public face, and the king worker bee for Westport Pride, our town's LGBTQ plus advocacy group. Right now, they're gearing up for June, which is Pride Month. We're planning a town-wide celebration on June 4th and a drag show June 17th. They've been active in other areas too, like recent debates over books in school libraries. And when I say they, I should say we. Full disclosure,
There.
I'm a founding member of Westport Pride and on the advisory board and the education committee. So welcome, Brian, and congratulations on the birth of your second child with your husband, Stephen.
Well, thank you, Dan. It's a pleasure to be here.
You are still on paternity leave, is that right?
I went back, I guess it's a month now, and so jumped right back into the workforce, but enjoyed the time I got to spend with Charlie, our now 3-month-old.
3 months old, awesome. So you're not the only gay parents in Westport.
No, we're not. We've, through Westport Pride, we've actually met, I'd say almost a dozen families in the Westport, Norwalk, and Fairfield area. And we've made some close friends with several.
What's it like to be a gay parent in Westport?
It's a good question. I think, since we've had our 2 children, Henry, our oldest, is 4. We've had some really positive experience in town. People have been very welcoming and accepting. You get the occasional question like, who's the dad? And, we're both the dad. But, we've really made a lot of good friends through our pediatrician's office, new parents group, daycare, and our son Henry just has been flourishing. And it's cute because when we go pick him up, the kids yell, "Daddy Brian, Daddy Stephen."
The other kids.
The other kids. So we really found a home here.
And what got you here?
Good question. So we had no plans of moving. We were living down in Rye, New York, which was where I grew up, and our neighbors had just sold their condo, and there was a bidding war, and someone left a tag in our door and said, "Are you interested in selling?" I had a license in New York, so I called the lady back and said, "Sure. The next door sold for Y, let's talk." And so within a week, we sold our condo, and then we were like, "Oh, we need to live somewhere." And our requirements were Metro North Line and a beach. And so we started up the coast, and Stephen's father and aunt grew up here in town, and his aunt, Sandra Long, was still here. And so I said, I don't know. Westport was Martha Stewart and Bridgewater. I don't know. So we came up here and we drove around. And as soon as I saw Campo, I fell in love. Looked at 10 houses, and the third one was our choice. And we haven't looked back.
Oh, that's awesome. And let's talk about Westport Pride.
Yeah.
How did it start? What does it do? What's the why is it necessary? Give us the full scoop.
So it was 2020. We were in COVID, and during that period of isolation, I was really thinking about there have to be other families like ours in town, and what would it look like if the LGBTQ community gathered in Westport? We knew there were pockets, and what would it look like if we were to come together and start being part of the community in a different way, raising the conversation, elevating the message of hope and inclusion, and really focusing on what it is that this town is about, and speaking to that, to those elements of inclusion and diversity. So during that time, there was a lot of social upheaval, and it came to me to let's check this out. So I actually reached out to you through a mutual friend, And we posed that question in the fall of, I think it was 2019.
2020.
2020. Through your blog, I just said, where is everybody? What's going on? Here's some ideas I have. And the outpouring was pretty phenomenal. Spoke one-on-one with a lot of individuals in town, and in January put out an email, said we're going to do this Zoom call. Show up if you're interested. Didn't expect many people to be there. Over 50 people signed up for the Zoom call. Students, parents, same-sex parents, parents of children who are coming out or going through that struggle, and other adults in the community. And it was just magical to see all these people, all these faces, wanting to get involved in this new idea.
And within a few months, there was the first Pride celebration.
Yeah.
Or the first since about 20 years ago, there were a couple at the Unitarian Church.
You're correct. Yeah.
But this was the first since then in Westport.
Yes. And so I think that's what was pretty phenomenal. We went from January to June, and we ramped up and had our first Pride celebration outside here from the library on Jessup Green. We had speakers and performers. We also had some partnerships with the local merchants that we were able to establish for fundraising. We had some speaker series. Trying to just jog my memory here. And a couple other things in town. We sold lawn signs. And that was also the first time a pride flag was raised over Jessup Green in this town. So really special and important month for us to show some visibility.
Devil's advocate, we hear it all the time. Why do you need a special celebration? Straight people don't have straight celebrations. Why should there be a Pride celebration?
Yes, I've heard that question, and I've seen it in some of the commentary, and so it's a good question. I think I would say, it's about visibility, it's about acceptance, and yeah, there's no straight month because in our society, every day is straight day. Looking at you or I walking down the street, you wouldn't know our sexuality until one of us has to come out and explain that to somebody. And so to be able to celebrate a month where people can just let that guard down and just be themselves fully is so important. And especially for our younger generations here in town, to see adults and see others who they can look to and see role models is so important, not only at the local level, but at the national level. And that's what Pride Month, I think, gives us. It also reminds us of our roots. Pride started out of protest and riot at Stonewall. And so it's also a month for us to remember how we got where we are today and the shoulders that we've been very fortunate to stand on to get to where we are.
Yeah. I mean, you make a good point about the coming out. I used to say, straight people come out as straight anytime a boy says, my girlfriend, or anytime a couple walks down the street, they're coming out as heterosexual. Mm-hmm. And you're right. I think it really is important for kids to see that they're not alone, mm-hmm. to see not only out adults, but out teenagers, mm-hmm. And to see straight allies who are there supporting them. So what can people expect from Pride on June 4th at Jessup Green?
Absolutely. So, we're continuing our tradition on Jessup Green. This will be our third Pride celebration. We're really excited about it. There will be local speakers and performers from within our Westport and LGBTQ community. The Select Women's Office will be there issuing a proclamation declaring June Pride Month in Westport. The delegation for our district, led by Stephanie Johnson with Jonathan Steinberg and CC Marr, will be there to present a citation as well as speak. Dominique is a member of our community as well, so I think that's important for our community to just know that part of her. And we'll be hearing from young people. Some of them I've known for years who just haven't felt ready to talk about their stories, and to just see that development and that they're ready to stand in front of 500 people and share their story is amazing. We'll also have things like arts and crafts for the kids, a photo booth. There'll be food trucks this year, which is new. And we're also going to have a vendor section. So local artisans will be sharing their crafts. Some of our local community organizations will be tabling as well to just share more information. And so it should just be a fun family day, and to show and yell out to the town, we're here, we're queer, and love is love. And just push back on those on that vocal minority in our community.
Yeah, especially these days with everything going on nationally. I think it says a lot about Westport.
I agree with you.
Crosswalk?
Yeah, so one of the things that was part of my idea back in 2020 was, what would it look like one day for Westport to have a rainbow crosswalk? And I've been asked the same question: why do we need a crosswalk? We have crosswalks. Why do you need a rainbow crosswalk? And again, it's about a message of inclusion within our community. We've been talking with the town about the idea of having something right out here on between Taylor Place and the Jessup Green. And so it would be not only a gateway to the park and our celebration, but it's a place where people can see that they're felt and heard, and those who maybe are not out, or that young kid in the car, can drive over it and say, I'm part of this, or go out there and take a walk across it and feel like they know this town accepts them from the ground up.
It'll be sort of like the Abbey Road, but a bit more colorful.
Yeah, I expect some Instagramming.
Nice, nice. And the drag show, that was a new one last year. Caused a bit of controversy.
It did.
People felt it was inappropriate for young kids. You want to talk about that a bit?
Absolutely. So we'll be partnering with Mocha again this year to do a family-friendly drag show. There will be 3 performers and a drag kid. Their name is Desmond is Amazing. They're 15. And they got their start several years ago, just voguing down the street during New York City Pride, and people took photos, and it became a national thing. And they're just an amazing person to know, and a real inspiration to the youth, I think. And so, people say, what's so important about drag? You're trying to groom children. You're trying to push sexuality on them. There's nothing sexual about a drag queen. That's what you're reading onto it. A clown, I don't know, you go to the beach, you see probably more, sexual things there than you will at a drag show. And so it's really about, expressing parts of ourselves. It's about stretching the gender norm. But again, it's giving our community a view into some things they may not normally get to see, and just have a fun time. Everything there is super appropriate. It's a private event. People are choosing to go there. And so no one's pushing anything onto anyone.
Yeah, the grooming part always perplexes me. I mean, society tried to groom me to be straight for my entire life, and it didn't quite work.
You're right. And using some of this language that dates back to the Anita Bryants in Florida back in the 70s again it's shameful, and there's not a place for it here in our town.
So speaking of our town, we touched a bit before on being gay in Westport. How would you characterize Westport in terms of acceptance, and is it just a small group? Do you find community-wide? Do you think Westport is different, for instance, from Rye? Where's Westport on the spectrum of inclusivity?
That's a good question. I think about Westport in a couple different ways. When my husband and I moved here 6 years ago, it was just the two of us. And so, again, coming back to that coming out idea, we were two guys. People might say, hey, are you married? Wedding ring. Or people might say, hey, are you guys brothers? Who just don't get it. And as we've had a family, we've come out more. Now we have to kind of say who we are as a family. And so we've in general felt, again, very accepted by the parents and our friends who we've met in town. I haven't had any overt homophobia directed at me in person. But I'd say, it's Westport's moving in the right direction. There are vocal people in town who feel we're going in the wrong direction. I would say they're in the minority. But there's a movement in these towns like Westport right now. I think Westport Pride is part of a larger coalition. What do we call it? Fairchester Pride. So it's just a networking organization that was started. And you look up and down Fairfield County, Monroe, Hamden, Wilton, Weston, Fairfield, Norwalk, Darien, Greenwich, all are having pride celebrations of some sort. Huh. I'm not from Connecticut, but I know a bit about some of those towns. And I don't think I would have thought of Hamden as a place to be flying a pride flag, or Monroe potentially. And so the acceptance is growing. Growing up in Rye, what you asked about that, it was a fairly, monolithic in a sense of, you grew up here, you went to college. Most people in town were bankers or lawyers, I think, similar to here. And they have a pride group too. It actually came out of a response to a drag story hour at their library, which got shut down, and a group of parents got together to start that organization. So there's progress. There's more to be made. There are other towns around here, 2 down from here, who have taken this in a very different direction. Darien has blocked flying any pride flags in town. I hear a lot about pride things getting vandalized or stolen. So the reactions are different, but overall Westport's been fairly accepting so far.
And one of the big parts of Westport Pride is Kayla Ionetta, science teacher at Staples High School, who has been very, very active in bringing young people along. I helped start the first gay-straight alliance of any public school in Connecticut in 1993 at Staples. Gay-straight alliance is now called the Gender Sexuality Alliance. Mm-hmm. And Kayla has done a spectacular job of really kickstarting that at Staples High School and with affiliates in the middle schools. How would you characterize the young population in Westport in terms of sexuality? Not numbers or anything, but how they relate to it.
I mean, Kayla is a unsung hero. She goes above and beyond. She's running this organization at Staples, and as you spoke about, she's also helped get them underway at the middle school. She really has a pulse on the community there. Her office is open all day, and students are dropping in to feel safe. My understanding, is that in general, kids don't really care. This isn't a kid issue. This is a grown-up issue, at least around the kids, which says a lot about about that. But what I hear is, students walk down the hall who feel comfortable holding hands, date, do all the things that a straight teen does. I think there's still a lot of room for improvement. I hear that students who might be part of sports teams or fit into that more, I don't know what the right word is, kind of bro culture. I don't know if that's the right way to characterize it. It's harder for them. I think students who might be more artsy or part of the theater, it's just a more natural part of that community. But working with and talking to students in both sides of that spectrum, people are feeling more and more comfortable.
Right. Of all the people you've met around town, any others besides Kayla stand out for what they've done in this space?
Well, we wouldn't be here today without Dan.
Not about me. Not about me.
I'll toot his horn for a minute, but yeah, you have been out as a educator, as a coach, as an author, as a blogger. I don't have to read your CV back to you, but when I got here and heard about you, I knew we had a ally, we had a leader, and we had a friend who's been vocal in our town. And I thank you for that, because it's really paved the way and opened the door for a lot within our community that many others don't have. Others in the community, we talked about Kayla. There are some, our advisors on the advisory board have been really strong. John Dodig, former principal at Staples.
What a role model he was as
Again,
an out
first
principal.
out principal, I believe, in Connecticut. Received several awards in his tenure there, and yeah, he stood there and said, "I'm gay." And I think, again, that opened eyes and let a lot of students feel comfortable to be who they were. There are a lot of other people who've worked in the background: Marjorie Almancy in the past, Ria Rueda, Liz Falk, Bethany Epner. Who am I forgetting? Senator CeCe Marr. She's been with us since the beginning too, and she works at the state level to see what she can do for our community. And so a lot of people here, even, I think of the merchants, I think of the select women's office, places I was talking with the DPW head, Pete, places where I wouldn't have thought, oh.
Pete Radquitz.
Yeah, all great people. Eileen Francis. Again, people who are in positions where in some towns they may be trouble or harder to work with. Everyone here has just been so helpful and open-armed. It's meant a lot to us to see that.
You met, and a lot of those people are straight. They're straight allies.
Correct.
And their importance can't be underestimated.
Absolutely. People who are straight have a real platform to help walk next to and support our community. They have the ability to reach out to other people and help have those conversations, help to move our groups forward. And it's a partnership. We can't move anywhere without each other.
So what's your advice to someone who wants to stand with the LGBTQ community? What can they do?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, people sometimes get a little gung-ho or they get really excited about it. And I would say, before you speak, listen, hear the stories, talk to people, and just say, tell me about yourself, tell me about your story. And that's where it's really powerful, to really get to know people, break through your assumptions. I had someone ask me once, what kind of gay are you? I said, what does that mean? I've never heard that question before. But we talked through it because they didn't know. I was speaking to someone else. I thought Pride was a day. I'm like, it's a month. It's educating. That's the next thing. It's really learning about our struggle, our history, There's tons of stuff online. Obviously some of the stuff we do here, we're working with the Westport Museum on collecting oral history so that there will be a record of kind of where this community's come from. So I'd say listen and educate yourself, and then reach out where you can. Be open-minded, open-hearted. If you stumble with some of the words like pronouns, we're understanding. It's a learning process. We understand. We've had to learn how to be straight for, I don't know, for me, 44 years. I don't get it that you're going to learn all about being LGBTQ in 48 hours. So, yeah.
And one more question that has nothing to do
Sure.
about any of this. You are a postulant for the priesthood with the Episcopal Church.
Yes, that is correct. I am on, as I say, sabbatical. 2 kids, full-time work, and a couple other things just make it a little hard to pursue education. But, I grew up fairly religious, not in a conservative sense, but always curious about faith in God. I attended college and majored in religion with this idea or this call to one day serve in ministry of some variety. I describe it as like there's a string gently pulling my heart forward into this. And so about 6 years ago, I was sitting with a priest after my friend's daughter's baptism, and we were talking, and he said, there's a formation group starting in Connecticut. Why don't you go just check it out? And through that talk, over a year, really felt the heart called to this process. It's not a overnight thing. The church moves at its own pace, and God moves at their own pace, and we move at our own pace. They're not always in alignment with each other, and so went through discernment. Went for a retreat with the bishops to explore the call more, and then I was formally invited into the process. What's unique about Connecticut, it's one of the few dioceses that allows you to really do formation in a different way. Typically, a priest would be someone who goes to a divinity school for 3 years full time, and then kind of, in a traditional sense, is called to a church. In Connecticut, it's really about how can you fulfill the canons of the church in a way that is unique to your journey. So maybe it's taking some classes at Yale, maybe it's taking some online classes with the University of the Pacific in California. But what are your gifts? And so for me, one of my gifts is my sexuality. The Episcopal Church is a very open and accepting place. And I lead with my heart. I look at Westport Pride as a calling, as part of that broader picture of what does it mean to serve. So we'll see where it goes. Again, God and the Episcopal Church in Connecticut and myself all work on different schedules.
Well, on the schedule right now is June 4th, the Pride Pride celebration that's here right outside the library on Jessup Green. We look forward to that. And you will be there with your husband, Stephen, your sons, Henry and Charlie.
Yep.
And what will you do after that?
That is a good question.
What do you do in Westport?
What do I do in Westport?
Where do you hang?
I work at home, so I love being able to just jump out and be in town. We love Compo. It's become a Friday night tradition to join the masses for pizza and play. It's the oldest kid is in charge kind of a arrangement that everyone has at the playground. But we just really love this community, and we love to take advantage of places like that and get out and enjoy everything Westport has to offer.
That's awesome. We've been speaking with Brian McGunagle, founder of Westport Pride, Episcopal Church postulant, gay father of 2 young sons, and a Westport booster. So, Brian, thanks for spending time with us today.
Absolutely, Dan. Thanks for the honor and the privilege.
And we'll see you at Pride.
Sounds good.